Mm, will start. Okay. Once again, good afternoon to everyone. Mm, were started with various NTF. Now we deal with various two-port networks. So in two-port network, we are going to study the three types of parameter. That is a Z parameter, Y parameter, and H parameter. Okay. So in earlier practical, we can complete the H parameter and Y parameter. Okay. And based on this, we can calculate the four types of parameters. Okay. Ankita Banswade, okay. Today we're going to study the third parameter that is called as a Z parameter. Okay. So the simulation of Z parameter is similar to H parameter and Y parameter. Okay. So there is a only change in condition, which thing we can make a open circuit or short circuit. Okay. So that's the only difference between these three parameters. Ankita Bansode, mute yourself. Okay. So as similar to the H parameter and Y parameter, we can consider the simple circuit the Z parameter. And based on this circuit diagram, we can calculate the Z parameter. That is, we have to calculate the values of Z1, Z1, Z2. Okay. So
So your voice is breaking.
calculate these four parameters. Okay, wait a minute. Okay, I'll increase the volume. Okay, now it is clear.
Yes, sir.
Hello. Okay, now it's clear. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. If there's break in between, you can inform to me. Okay. Okay, we'll continue. Okay. So in order to calculate the Z parameter, we can consider a simple circuit diagram for a simulation. Okay. So by using a theoretical calculations, to calculate the values of Z parameter, we can use the KVL rule, right? So might be uh, to calculate the values of I1 and I2, you can apply the KVL rule to the port 1 and port 2, right? And by using the mathematical equations of a Z parameter, we can calculate the values. Okay, so how to calculate the values by using a simulation software? So for that, we require the condition of Z parameter. Okay, so for Z parameter, we can consider a simple circuit diagram which consists of the two voltage sources V1 and V2. Okay, so we can use any voltage values. So here for our understanding, we can values of voltages V1 as a 5 volt and a V2 is also 5 volt. Okay, so to calculate the I1 and I2, of I1 and I2, so if we go with our theoretical method, to calculate the values of I1, we can apply the KVL rule. So
Sir, voice is breaking.
calculate the four. ओके. सगळ्यांना सेम प्रॉब्लेम येतोय का?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, my voice is all to all.
सर काही शब्द ऐकू येतात काही शब्द ऐकू येत नाहीत.
बाकीच्यांना सेम प्रॉब्लेम येतोय. Yes, other. हाँ, yes, हिमानी.
Yes, sir. Voice break होतोय.
Hmm. Okay, wait a minute. Okay. Okay, we'll continue. Okay, now my voice is clear. It's
Yes, sir.
audible. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so if my voice is break, you can inform to me immediately. Okay, so okay, we'll continue. So the condition, first thing is we require the condition for Z parameter. Okay, so in our theoretical method, we can apply the KVL rules to the port 1 and port 2, and we can calculate the values of I1 and I2. But in our simulation method, so we have to consider only the condition of Z parameter. Okay, so here we does not require the KVL rule, so we can use directly multimeter, and on multimeter we can get the values of I1 and I2. So what is the condition for Z parameter? Okay, so to calculate the values of I1, okay, so now everyone will listen carefully. So when we calculate the values of I1, so I have to consider only the voltage source V1. ओके, ऐकू येते सगळ्यांना व्यवस्थित? हा, आवाज येतोय व्यवस्थित?
Yes, sir.
समोरचा
Okay, so to calculate the values of I1, we can consider the voltage source V1. When we calculate the values of I1, so at that time we have to make the voltage source V2 as a short circuit. We have to make voltage source to as a short circuit. So listen carefully. So when we calculate the values of I1, we can consider only the voltage source V1, and we can make the voltage source V2 as a open circuit. Okay. Now when we calculate the values of I2, we have to consider only the voltage source V2, and we can make V1 as a open circuit. Okay, so this is the condition for Z parameter to calculate the value of I1 and I2. So we know the formulas of Z11, Z12, Z21 and Z22. Okay, so if we look at these four formulas, so the values of these parameters are depends on the values of V1 and V2. Okay, and the current I1 and I2. So we require the four values V1, V2, I1 and I2. Okay, so here we can consider the two voltage sources, V1 as a 5 volt and V2 as a 5 volt. So we calculate only values of I1 and I2. Okay, so everyone, first note down the values of V1 and V2. So the value of V1 is a 5 volt and the value of V2 is also 5 volt. Okay, so in our MultiSim software, first we can draw circuit diagram to calculate the Z parameters. So here we can consider the two loops. So we can call as a loop 1 and loop 2, and the voltage source V1 and a V2. Okay, so now we can first calculate the values of I1. Okay, so here to calculate the values of current, we can use a multimeter, and on multimeter we can display the values of I1 and I2 individually. So first we can calculate the value of I1. So what is the condition to calculate the value of I1? Okay, so now listen carefully. So to calculate the value of I1, we can consider only the voltage source V1. And what about V2? So we can make the V2 as a open circuit. Okay, so now we can calculate the value of I1. So here, whatever the voltage source V2, we have to make V2 as a open circuit. So we can remove the voltage source V2. Okay, so have you observed the change in circuit diagram?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so now we can simulate the circuit diagram. So to simulate, so we can press only the run button. Okay, so after simulation, we can, so on multimeter, so there are current, voltage, the value of resistor, and the value of frequency. These four knobs are there. So we have to measure the value of current. Okay, so by using multimeter, we can use the value of current, we can measure the value of voltage, we can also measure the values of various resistors. So here we can use the multimeter to measure the current. So we have to put the knob of multimeter on a current. So what is the unit of current? In which
Ampere.
unit we can measure the current? Okay, so okay, very good. So that's why we have to put the knob on a ampere, and we can display the value of current I1 as 7.31 milliampere. Okay, so have you observed the value of current I1? Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so note down the value of current I1. So the value of current I1 is 7.31. So unit is important. So the value of I1 is in milliampere. So note down the value of I1 is 7.31 milliampere. Okay, so now we can measure the value of current I2. Okay, so in order to measure the value of current I2, we have to consider the voltage source V2, and we have to make V1 as a open circuit. So now we'll change the circuit diagram according to our condition. So here we can make V1 as an open circuit, and we can consider voltage source V2. Okay, so wait a minute, we'll change the circuit diagram. Okay, so have you observed the change in circuit diagram?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay, so now we'll simulate the diagram and we can measure the value of current I2. Okay, so note down the value of current I2. So the value of current I2 is also 7.311 milliampere. Okay, so we can calculate the value of current I1 and I2. So we get the values of these four things. We get the value of V1, V2, I1 and I2. So once we know the values of these four things, we can calculate the Z parameter. So now first we can calculate the value of Z11. Okay. So what is the formula of Z11?
V1 by I1.
Very good. So the value of Z11 is V1 divided by I1. So the value of V1 is 5 volt and the value of I1 is 7.311. Okay. So make the calculation in a calculator. 5 divided by 7.311 milliampere. So that will be our Z11. Okay. So what is the unit of Z11? काय म्हणतो आपण Z ला? In which unit we can measure the value of Z11? What is the meaning of Z?
Ohm.
Ohm. Very good. Okay. So calculate the value of Z11 by using a calculator. So similar to this, we can calculate the value of Z21. So it is the formula of Z21.
V2 by I1.
Very good. So V2 divided by I1. So value of V2, put the value of V2 and put the value of I1. So next one is a Z12. So the formula for Z12 is V1 divided by I2. Right? And fourth parameter is a Z22. Okay, so if we take a voltage source as a same, we can get the values of I1 and I2 same. So if we change the V1 and V2, the value of I1 and I2 also change. Okay, so here if we now will change the value of V2. So instead of 5 volt, we can consider the value of V2 is a 10 volt. So wait a minute. Okay, so parameters are also changed. Okay, these four parameters, that is a Z11, Z12, Z21 and Z22. So it depend on the values of V1, V2, I1 and I2. So we can consider any values of V1 and V2. So as the value of V1 and V2 changes, the value of I1 and I2 also change. Okay, so understood how to calculate the values of Z parameter?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so it is possible to simulate the various two-port networks इन अ सिम्युलेशन सॉफ्टवेअर तुम्हाला करता येईल का हे? तुम्ही कधी कोणी लॅपटॉप यूज करताय का? बरं ठीक आहे. सो इफ इट इज पॉसिबल टू सिम्युलेट इन अ multi-sim, so you can simulate the various experiment in a multi-sim software. Okay, so you can do the experiment. You can change the value of voltage. You can change the value of resistors. Okay, so if we change the value of voltage, if we change the value of resistor, then observe the effect on current. It will be constant or it will be changed. So obviously, if we change the values of voltage or a resistor, the values of current also be changed. Okay, so depending on the V1, V2, I1 and I2, the values of Z parameter also changed. Okay, so by using this simple circuit diagram, we can simulate the two port networks. So it might be a Z parameter, it might be a Y parameter, or it might be a H parameter. Okay, so have you understood it? Yes. Okay. Here we can complete the simulation experiments on a two port networks. So now only we have to perform the experiments on a attenuator. Okay. So once we complete all the experiments, okay. Now uh, for our NTA practicals, what are the various practicals? So we have a total 8 practicals. So based on the 8 practicals, you have to write a one page write up for each experiments. So for one experiment, we have to write a one page write up. Okay, and whatever the write up, so we have to scan it and we have to send to me. Okay, so once we complete all the practicals, so we have to write a one page write up for all the experiments. So I'll provide the manual, I provide the simulation of all the experiments. Okay, so we have to write a one page write up on experiment. So what we have to do in a one page write up? So we have to write a aim, our circuit diagram, various calculations, and a conclusion. Okay, so if you have to possible to simulate these experiments at your home, then you can also attach the simulation result of an experiment. Okay, so any doubts? Okay, so next practicals are on a attenuator. Okay, so once we complete the attenuator, we complete our all the practicals. Okay, so if you have possible to simulate this, yeah, if you have to possible to use a multi-sim software at your home, so you can use it. Okay, so if you face any difficulty, you can ask to me. Okay, so you have any doubts regarding these practicals? Okay, so if you don't have any doubts, uh, you can put your attendance. Okay, and don't left now. I'll take the screenshot. Okay, so if we complete your attendance, you can left now.